Hello and welcome to Center of Spookiness, the very spooky, scary podcast about very spooky, scary stuff, but mostly it's about episodes of TV shows. I'm Josh, and with me, as always, is Scary Skinner. Hey, Scary Skinner.
Why do I have a name and you don't?
I don't know.
What witchcraft is this?
There's nothing scary about Josh, sorry to say.
Nothing scary. Oh, Josh
It's just very mundane and dull. Not too scary. I'm very basic. Guy's named Josh, very basic.
as opposed to guys named Brian.
So this week on the show, we are talking about a series that has been a long time coming to Center of Weirdness. We've brought it up several times before. We've said we've got to cover it. And this seemed like the perfect episode to jump in on, and that of course is Silk Stalkings. And we are covering episode 14 of season 8, the final season of this show. And boy, you can tell, it's the Great Pumpkin Harry. This is their Halloween episode, which, according to IMDb, aired on January 24th, 1999.
God, you're in the last year of a millennium, and Silk Stalkings still going on, putting on Halloween episodes after you've finally taken that down your Christmas lights.
Well, I think, the idea behind that, was it's 1999. We're really worried about the coming millennium switching over to 2000. What's going to happen? Our computers are going to all crash simultaneously. Money is going to be shooting out of ATMs. Planes are going to fall out of the sky. Everybody was concerned about what was going to happen when the clock changed over to January 1st, 2000. So I think that their thinking was, let's just get all this stuff in early because we don't know if we're going to have time to really enjoy it. So let's get this Halloween episode out at the beginning of the year so you can watch it early and then you can come back to it in October right before the world ends.
I have a theory that this is an episode of a show that could not exist after 9/11 happened. I will not be taking follow-up questions on my theory.
All right. This episode is... it's wild. It does not make any sense. And this actually does kind of pair nicely with our Stevel episodes a few weeks back, where it was a dream. So we can just get it out of the way. We can spoil it for you, unfortunately. Everything that happens in this episode is a dream, sort of, we think. Maybe. It does pull that little thing at the very end where it makes you think maybe it wasn't a dream, but it obviously was a dream. And we run into those problems that happen when you have dream episodes where why is he dreaming about the things that he is dreaming?
So in a half-hour episode, like the Home Improvement Halloween episodes or the Stevel episodes, where what happened isn't canon, isn't reality, is a dream. And even if the parts where they wake up from the dream probably didn't happen either. It starts to get creaky around the 20th minute of so why is Steve dreaming what Carl's doing? Why is Steve dreaming about his friend hooking up with two ladies? Why is a person dreaming covering the B plot?
Yeah.
In a 45-minute episode where the main characters aren't the ones dreaming. So it's the C character who's doing the dreaming and we are following him only 1/8 of the time. So he has to be dreaming everything that's going on about everyone else and having these side plots going on that he's dreaming of. You take one step back and you go, why is he dreaming about this woman on his force kissing young men? Why does he keep dreaming about this handsome dude on his force getting sexually assaulted constantly? Why did he dream that he got roofied? Why does it's so hard, but at the same time, it goes downhill so fast. we were talking early on, like, well, this doesn't have the pace of a Pack Blue, where like it's crazy from minute one and shit's happening left and right. Because even though it's a dream from step one, kind of slow paced, and then just literally, if fucking just, I don't know, like the legs in the chair just kind of broke or something, because he started fucking falling down a hole, and it's like you went like, Brian, there's only 7 minutes left. I'm like, what? Like it's going. There's no there's nothing going on to make you think like, hey, there's anything that can wrap this up in any satisfying manner whatsoever. So it doesn't matter. And then the show goes even crazier and it's like, well, it doesn't fucking matter at all. And it's like,
yeah, it's one of those weird things where like, that it's a dream
from minute one,
but then they reveal it at the end like, oh, it's all a dream. And you're like, yeah, because you did that on purpose. Like, we know that it's a dream because, all right, let's just get into this because I don't really know this show at all. I don't know.
So this is
the intro of this show,
which is
I
long.
know the intro of the show, which is long, but I remember this show being on in that heyday of me being, I'm a little younger than you. This was the era of like, this was a USA like up all night type show where it was on late at night. It was like 10 or 11 when it was on in my area. I remember seeing promos for it and thinking, well, that's very sexy. And then I remember catching the intro to the show and thinking, ooh, that's very sexy, but I can't watch this because I will probably get in trouble if my mom or my grandmother catches me watching this show. So I have to be I got to be on the preview button and or the previous button and go to another channel very quickly if necessary, because it's on a basic cable channel.
I mean, it was,
but it was still sexy.
It was eventually like I grew up no USA Network in Canada, believe it or not. So I had heard of it because it was originally for the first 2 seasons on CBS.
Really, I did not know that.
That and like people would reference that it was on before or after professional wrestling on USA Network. So they would have even on the TSN feed in Canada, they would have like, hey, after this, Silk Stalkings, except for us, no, it was hockey. But like, so like I was unaware it was on for so long, and I saw a few previews of it on CBS, but I didn't actually watch it because it was 1991. I'm not watching Silk Stalkings. But yeah, like I have no point of reference for this. And this is, in fact, the third iteration of this show, basically.
Yeah.
That we're jumping into, like near the end of the last season with the third variation of the main characters.
Yeah. Yeah. So they started with 2 other characters, and then those folks disappeared, or they left the show.
They left the show, one to start a family, one to go to movies.
Yeah, and I don't think that worked out for either of them.
Rob Estes is a giant star.
Is he?
Is he? I mean, he seems like a large man.
I do know Rob Estes. He's been in stuff. He was in Melrose Place, to be fair. So he was on that, and I think he came back to the 90210 like reboot show in like the late 2000s. So yeah, he's been in some stuff, but most of the stuff that it looks like he's in currently is a lot of like,
man, I can't believe that 90210
maybe like
reboot was
rom-com kind of things
over a decade ago.
Ooh, he was in CSI Cyber.
That makes sense.
For one episode.
I mean, everyone in this show should be on CSI Cyber.
Yeah, well, this is the show where you would have gotten the whole CSI Cyber beginning, I think, on Silk Stalkings. If it had lasted into the internet era, there'd been a lot of cybering happening on this show.
This is about, all I know from the brief description of the plot on Wikipedia that I felt like reading is that they cover crimes of passion. That's it.
Yeah.
This isn't about that, though.
No. Yeah, so they left at some point in, like, it looks like both of those leads were on the show for like the first 100 episodes, and then they bounced, and then they brought in a couple other people, which apparently people did not like, for 12 episodes or something, 12 or 15 episodes. They got booted because apparently no one liked them, and then they brought in the people that we are with currently, and that's Chris Potter and Janet Gunn, who are playing Detective Sergeant Tom Ryan and Detective Sergeant Cassandra Cassie St. James, I think.
That is a way too long name.
St. John, sorry, St. John.
But really, that reinvigorated the fan base who were into their sexual chemistry.
Yes, because you said that they were a couple before they joined the force or something.
From what I read, they were a divorce prior to the show, their appearance on the show, which is apparently they come in cold. They never explain where they came from, or where the people who were booted immediately left. They are just they do nothing to explain why there's a transition there, which is fantastic. But their characters previous to being on the show are married and divorced, and now are having a sparked interest in each other as they are now a. Why would you make a divorced couple a pair at your work?
I don't know.
It just not just on the force, just at work. Like if you were volunteering at the food shelf, you wouldn't put them together.
Yeah, no, it's a bad choice, I think.
But they're both the best looking people on the force, so maybe you have no choice.
Yeah, I guess that is what it is. So, all right, let's talk about this episode here. We begin with our sort of police chief. I think that's who he is, Harry. And he's a captain. Sorry, Captain Harry Lipschitz. And he is lounging in a chair watching a movie, and he's kind of dozing off while he watches this movie. And we cut to the film that he's watching, and we see it play out. And basically, we see these two women on the roof of a house, and they are doing some sort of spell casting, and they're saying a bunch of magic words.
Well, also kind of phantom feeling each other up.
Yeah.
It's very The Craft.
Yes, I think when it started, we were like, oh, is this a softcore porn? And it's not, but it might as well be. I'm sure that it probably is.
It's funny because later his wife goes like, you were up all night watching horror movies again. I'm like, I don't think that's what he was watching.
Yeah, it didn't seem like that was a horror movie, but so we cut inside the film. We see this woman who is yelling at her son, who is a complete asshole. He is playing really loud rock music while he's getting ready in the bathroom. And he's talking about going to college. And his mom is just yelling at him to like, hey, wake me up at a certain time in case the alarm doesn't work or whatever. And he's just like being a total asshole to her.
We see the witch girls outside her window right behind her, which is very, very funny.
Yeah, they're looking in and laughing, and he's screaming and doing all this stuff, and then the mom puts in some earplugs and puts on a eye mask so that she can go to sleep. I'm not sure what time it is. It's like 6 a.m. or something. I don't really know what.
He's getting ready for the day. It looked like it was night outside for them, wasn't it?
No, it was daylight, but it was weird.
What a time to cast a spell on somebody's roof.
Yeah, I'm going to go out at 6 a.m. and do this thing.
Clothes.
And so he's not listening to her, and he's got a great he's got like a great tribal sun tattoo on his shoulder, which is pretty great. And he starts to brush his teeth and immediately starts choking and spits up blood and teeth, and starts screaming for his mom, but she is asleep and has the earplugs in, so she can't hear him, and he falls down and seemingly dies. And then the man in the chair, Harry, he wakes up, and his wife is telling him to come to bed, and she needs him, fresh for tomorrow, because tomorrow is the day of her big Halloween party that she, loves throwing for everybody, and it's a big deal for her. But he doesn't like it. He's like, I don't really like Halloween, but he seems to kind of be very begrudging. And she tells him to blow out the candle in the jack-o'-lantern that they have on on top of the television. And he's like, I could use some magic myself, blah, 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 to get out of this whole situation, because he doesn't want to go. And he blows the candle out, and then there's like a weird sort of twinkling kind of sound effect that we get. And I was like, oh, does this mean that like there's going to be some magic that's happening? And
in theory, you could say that he didn't actually wake up here, and even this is part of a dream because of the magic.
Could be.
Also, since he fell asleep before, like every part of this show he watched, we don't know when he started dreaming the plot as well, unless he watched this movie before multiple times.
Yeah,
It's on VHS.
I'm not really sure what is happening. Like I think that I thought initially, I'm gonna scrub back through this intro here, because I thought initially when he blew the candle out, it like the pumpkin changed, and it does change. It actually does change its face. So,
which is cool, but it doesn't mean anything.
It's a happy face when you see it, and then when he blows it out, the face has turned menacing.
So he dreamed this too.
But we know that's not a dream, because when he wakes up later, he's in his office already.
So when did he? So
I know when the dream starts, and I'll tell you when we get there.
But we at this point, because we talked about the sound of the magic when he blows at the thing, we need to talk about how much soundtrack this fucking episode. I'm terribly curious if every episode of Silk Stalkings is this, or it's because it's the Halloween episode. But my fucking God, there is just so much goddamn synthesizer, piano music, dog sounds, wicka 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 wah, everything in this, like, it is unstoppable. You cannot stop it.
It's pretty incredible, man. There is like there's
the clown music.
It's a weird mix of like actual saxophone, which you know from our coverage of Nightman how much we love the sax, but then also like they just grabbed a Casio like on factory settings and are just like a boop, 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 throughout the episode, and it's pretty wild.
There are times where it just gets going, and you're like, what is going on? There's nothing in the scene that should have this music.
I think that it must be probably heightened because it's a Halloween episode, but I don't know that for sure.
There's monkey sounds being played at one point.
Yeah, it's pretty great. So the next morning, after we get our great credit sequence, which if you've never seen the Silk Stalkings credit sequence, you should just go look that up on YouTube. It's pretty fantastic, and it definitely sets the stage for a show that you're not getting. Like it looks like this is it's a little bit more intense. There's a lot of guys with binoculars staring at the screen, lots of shots of butts and women in lingerie, and people swimming, and I guess it's supposed to take place in Florida, but it was shot in San Diego, so very different, but similar tropical vibes, I guess.
Your governors will have to fight over that.
So he wakes up the next morning and he tries to sneak out very quietly so as to not to not wake up his wife and to not get her to talk to him about the Halloween party. He makes up a lie about this task force meeting that he has to do with the mayor. And I guess he has a poker game that he doesn't want to miss. And so that's why he's trying to get out of going to this Halloween party. He goes to work, and this is where we get our intro to our two main cop characters, Tom and Cassie, but I'm just going to call them by their costume names once they get changed in just a few, because it's too hard to honestly remember Tom and Cassie. Also, I would much rather say Zora and Vixana. Also,
these characters aren't in the episode.
That's true. They are very different. And apparently they have magic, I guess, they have these abilities, but it's a very muddy episode.
Everything just happens to satisfy the scene.
Yeah. So they come in, they tell him that they're going to this school sort of charity Halloween carnival event. I'm not sure why, but they are. And also, it doesn't really make sense because they are going to do this, but then everything he dreams isn't real, I guess. But were they just going to be in their original costumes
I mean,
doing the same thing?
when he woke up, they're holding costumes in bags.
Yeah.
Not necessarily these ones. So he did specifically dream Cassie into a revealing witch costume.
Yes, but then she's dressed like that in the real world at the end, unless that's also a dream.
It's possible.
So they chastise him for trying to get out of going to his wife's party because they see that he has a bunch of snacks there, and they kind of get mad at him because they're like, your wife loves Halloween. She she wants you to be there, and it's very important. And he's resistant, especially because he found the costume that she left for him, which is a Groucho Marx costume.
Which we'll now see him in the rest of the episode.
Yeah, well, we've talked about this before because we covered an episode a couple years ago of Erie, Indiana, where the Groucho glasses were the height of comedy. Like, they were this hilarious thing.
They're in every show from 87 through 95. They're not apparently, because you just it's his cultural touchstone from 70 years earlier.
Yeah, like there's nothing funnier than Groucho glasses, apparently.
And he loses his real glasses, so he has to wear the Groucho glasses the rest of the time because they work as glasses.
Well, so what happens is he drops his glasses when he gets a phone call, and he steps on them and the lens pops out. So then he pops the lenses into the Groucho glasses. It's
stupid. It also lets you know that this whole thing is a dream. But it isn't getting crazy yet.
No, so okay. So what we see, okay, so this is when the weird thing.
When the cigar becomes real is when the dream starts, right?
Yes, exactly. So when he has this big fake cigar that looks like a dildo or a fake dog turd or something, like it's this huge thing.
Or both, if that's what you're into.
Or both, yes. And it's part of the costume, and he puts it in the ashtray and he falls asleep. And then we cut to another shot where the lighting is slightly different and the cigar is real. And so we immediately know, okay, now we're in a dream. Like, clearly this is a dream. Does this happen before or after the scene where the cops go to the costume shop and get their new costumes?
I believe before.
Okay, so he's dreaming them going to a costume shop.
Because they have to be, because he dreams the same guy twice that they go to.
Yes. Oh, you're right. Okay. That's confusing. So
you can say about everything in this episode that's confusing.
Yeah, so he tells them, like, they're going, originally they're dressed, they're going to go as, I think she's going to be Little Miss Muffet, and he's going to be Flash Gordon. And he's like, do you
things
like those
things that are in the public domain?
and Harry's like, do you like those costumes? And they're like, yeah, I guess. And then he's like, nah, it should be something that you really like. And so then that's him dreaming of what he thinks they like, which is why they go and dress like Zorro and Vexana, the sort of
sex
witch.
Sex witch.
Yeah, a sex witch. That's right. So they go to the costume shop. They get their new costumes. They like them. And they find that their clothes, along with his badge, but not his gun.
But not her badge, because her badge is in her bosom.
Yes, but maybe her gun, unclear. But they have
matter.
been removed from the changing rooms by Fredo, the Hobbit cleaner, is how the shop proprietor Arlo refers to him.
And Arlo is doing every stone. We couldn't tell if it's because he's dressed like if
Like a hippie, like a 60s hippie.
60s hippie, like that is his costume and his costume shot, so he's doing a bit, or that's what he's supposed to be. It's really annoying, as basically every stoner bit ever is, intentionally or unintentionally, in one of these shows. I don't want to hear someone go, man, one more time my fucking life.
I was trying to see if this character showed up ever again on this show because
he dreams him he dreams him twice.
Yeah, he dreams him twice, which is weird.
Maybe he's like
his
fucking works at his grocery store or some shit.
Yeah, I don't see him as ever being on he's only on this episode, but this dude, his name is Charlie Lang. He's got some good delivery later as Mather. But this guy's been on some shows that could be worth potentially covering, like a show called Team Knight Rider. Don't know what that is, but I'm interested. He's been on an episode of Pacific Blue. He was on a show called Dark Skies, which I think might be an alien invasion show, which could be worth watching. Only had like 19 episodes, so I bet it wasn't very good.
Who does he play on The West Wing?
Let's see. Congressman Skinner.
That's the best character on this show.
Also on an episode of Murder, She Wrote, Matlock, Fresh Prince, the 90s Flash TV show.
I mean, are we gonna do Sliders at some point?
I mean, maybe. Sliders had some pretty wild shows.
Sliders is a show I really wanted to like. And
I remember watching a lot of it, so I don't know if it's good or not, though.
It's rated 7.4 on that. It seems like a 7 show out of 10.
Yeah, I could see that. This guy also played Nancy's agent on Tanya and Nancy, the Inside Story. But anyway, so Arlo's there, dressed like a hippie, pretending to be every stoner stereotype you've ever heard of. But he says, I'll have the clothes back to you by the end of the day. And they just kind of roll with it. Like, it's like, yeah, sure, that's fine. I'm a cop. I'm missing my badge. This is bad, but okay, sure. We're just gonna roll with it. And again, it doesn't matter because it's all a dream. So then we go to and again, the person who's dreaming this is Harry, who's really not even in the episode right now.
This is all him dreaming a B plot for his character, for his underlings.
So we go to the carnival, the fall fair thing, the Halloween carnival that we've got going. And Vixana, the sex witch, her job is a kissing booth. So it's kisses or curses. And you pay her money and she gives you a kiss. And we cut to her doing this to an old man, looks like the Monopoly guy. She's giving him a little kiss on the cheek and he's happy and he wanders away, and she turns around and there are 2 young boys there and they are staring directly at her breasts and asking each other if they're real.
It was so funny in Seinfeld. That's why this is here. It was a time where it was you could very openly just talk about women's breasts and whether they were real or not. Also, this seems like a throwaway gag. I hope it doesn't last, I don't know, 10 minutes.
It goes for way too long and it gets way too uncomfortable. Like, this is gross, honestly, and I'm really kind of shocked that this was on a show. I mean, I guess they knew that a bunch of teen boys were just watching this show anyway, so they're just pandering to them. But boy, oh boy, they decide to each pay her $100. They pull out 2 $100 bills, and she's like, "Where do you get this?" And he's like, "This is what is this town called?"
It's Palm Beach.
Palm Beach. Okay.
Yeah.
Like, this is Palm Beach. Our parents are very generous with their allowances or whatever. And so you're like, okay. And then she kind of snaps at them. She does take their money and put it in between her breasts, though. So I guess, you're just like, all right, this is a little weird. Maybe she's going to turn the tables on them or something. But then we cut back and she has smothered them in kisses. There's lipstick all over their faces.
She gave them their full price.
It's very uncomfortable. And we do, like, basically they're like, oh, we've only gotten $50 worth of kisses, so we need more. And then later we find out that she shoved them both into lockers in the school, which is totally appropriate and fine.
Fine, but like, at some point, if my boss was dreaming of me kissing kids, which I hope never happens, I would hope they would have me stand up to the children by the third or fourth kiss.
Well, it's kisses or curses, so put a fucking curse on them.
I kept waiting for that, or
take their money.
Here's what kisses or curses. Hey, tell them to fuck off. Take their money.
Yeah, there's your curse. Fuck you.
Fuck you, kid. Where's your parents?
Yeah, so it's gross. Let's just get it out of the way. And then we could talk about Zorro and his weird shit that's going on.
Oh, man. Harry is really into Zorro getting pushed over by women.
Yeah, and getting fucked by them, apparently. So he's dressed as
Nothing
Zorro.
Happened.
And he's doing yeah, sure. He's doing a photo shoot with all of these people who want to come up and get their photo taken with Zorro. So they have like a backdrop and he's standing there with his sword.
Yeah, I'm sure 6 or 7 people in 10 years would actually want this.
Yeah, he's taking a picture. Even in '99, I mean, there was a more modern Zorro show on at the time. When was
Antonio Banderas's?
With
you're
Catherine
right. Zeta-Jones when he cut open her clothes with the Z.
That was '98.
So this is why.
Yeah. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. He
cut off her clothes with the sword.
And there was a 90s, I think it was 90s. That was early 90s, that Zorro show that was on.
That had to be by the people who did like Xena and everything else, right?
90 through 93. I do remember watching a lot of that show on the Family Channel.
So on that channel, I guess he does not cut off the lady's clothes with the sword.
Yeah, I don't think so. He it seemed like it was a family friendly show, I think.
Not this Zorro. He gets sexually assaulted by a high school girl.
Yeah, that's also pretty gross. So yeah, he's standing there taking all these pictures with kids and other people, and this girl is like, "Is your mustache real? Because it looks like something crawled on your lip and died there." And
that joke was just used for fucking everything at the time. The only good use of it is when on The Simpsons, when someone asked Barney, "Did something crawl down your throat and die?" and he responded with, "Oh, it didn't die."
So he's standing there and he's kind of getting slightly offended by this attack on his great costuming. And this woman shows up to sort of rescue him from this situation. Miss Dawson, I think is her name, Sheila Dawson. And she's very flirty with him. And he's like, "Hey, thanks for saving me. I appreciate that." And she's like, "Who said I saved you?" And then takes a seductive bite out of an apple. And then tries to she like brings him around to like her friends who are also kind of all over him and like grabbing all over him and everything. And he tries to run away, and then she ambushes him in a room and essentially rips her clothes off and climbs on top of this guy who is trying to get away from her, but is not being very successful. And
she's very strong.
It's kind of wild that your boss would be dreaming of you fucking some random woman while dressed as Zorro.
He must be like, half his day at work must be like sitting there going, "That guy must be getting so much ass." Just like that's all he must be thinking in his head all day long, staring out his window. Like, fucking that guy, if he just dressed up as Zorro, he would be fucking banging every single teacher and student
Yeah, like
attempts.
did he like it would be something if there was some sort of Zorro tie-in in the movie that he was watching. Like what if he watched a movie where Zorro was fighting some witches and
Or
that's
like
why he was dreaming this later?
just have, for her, just have knockoff Elvira hosting the horror
Yeah.
movie-thon because she's just playing Elvira.
Oh, Vixana?
Yes.
Yeah, that would actually make sense.
It's just red Elvira.
Yeah. Oh yeah, good point. But
Instead,
so,
he's watching a movie about two high school girls saying witch stuff in goth miniskirts and kind of caressing each other's chests, which is a horror movie.
Yeah, definitely.
Honey, I'm watching a horror movie. Horror.
My heart rate got up real high watching this horror movie.
Oh, I ate all that chili and now this. It's just a nightmare.
My wrist is really sore from watching that horror movie. I was gripping the chair arm so tight.
It was edging my seat, edging all night.
So yeah, anyway,
he's now had to work with 3 different pairs of sexy private investigators or whatever the fuck they are.
They're cops, yeah.
Cops. He's just so pent up.
That's true. Yeah. He's and it's interesting too cuz it's like it doesn't seem like he's unhappy with his wife. Like I think he loves his wife. He just doesn't like her Halloween parties. But like
he likes poker a lot.
Yeah, I guess he likes poker more than Halloween, but he's still dreaming about his coworkers, his subordinates, the people that he is in charge of, fucking other people.
Not each other though, which is he does dream one of them, another subordinate trying to sexually assault one of them. But good point. But of the 2 main characters, he does not hook them up in his dreams, not in the slightest.
Yeah, it's interesting. 2 characters who were married previously.
So, like, in theory, if I was a writer and the entire show at this point is sexual tension, will they or will they not? Right?
Yeah.
And you had an episode where it's non-canon, everything is just a dream. You could easily tease the audience with, hey, they kiss, but it doesn't count. They don't put a single second into these 2 people dressed as Zorro and a buxom witch, even slightly interested in each other.
No.
You would think that there's no part like oh, these are 2 characters who are both attractive people, but they are a purely professional team. Not formally married, not divorced, not people who are the show is teasing will be getting back together. Yeah. None of this is happening in his dream. He has everyone else after them, but not each other. And like as a writer, I'd be like, this is my chance to see if I have them even like come close to kissing or even holding hands on screen. What will the apparently rabid fan base who can change the casting of your show midstream of a season? Like, how would they react to that? Like, where are they? Like, what message board are they on? Are they on AOL's Silk Stalking room? Like, where are they getting all this instant feedback that they can change
that would have been mid 90s when that happened. So yeah, I mean, I guess it must have been like message boards or
like
something.
Keyword Silk Stalkings.
They sent the producers of the show like envelopes full of ripped up stockings.
Who is this fan base for this show that's that passionate?
It's pretty incredible. And also, yeah, because it probably wasn't a huge show, like it probably wasn't a massive like ratings boom. I mean, obviously it must have done well enough for them to keep it on for 9 years, but or 8 years, but like it must have had a decent size audience, but probably not huge based on the fact that it was just on basic cable. So it might not have been that many people. We're not looking at like Family Matters, 20 million people watching kind of thing.
No, like maybe like they know him by name. Like, hey, Chris really hates this fucking new character.
Yeah, this guy he was really upset about the direction of the new episode. Well, we can't piss him off.
Piss off.
He sways the message board. So
man, if Josh could only watch in small chunks when his mom isn't in the room, but if we upset him even further by him not liking the new main characters.
Yeah. So So where are we here? God. Okay, so Zorro gets away. He gets away from her, and once he finally gets away with her, he connects back up with Vixana, who also seems to be sort of turned on by his costume. Um, and then we cut to a seemingly disconnected scene where we're in I guess a Catholic school that's where they're getting a lecture about the witch trials.
And it's very fake looking.
Yes.
The teacher talks. The two witch girls from the rooftop are in the class.
We don't know that immediately, but yes.
They have, one of them has a very distinctive face for.
Oh, true, yeah.
So she pops out pretty quickly, but like it is such that A, this is obviously fake, and B, because everything else has been fake now too. B, like the way the teacher is talking, she clearly is the head witch.
Yeah, her name is Mrs. Ramsdale.
She is over enunciating everything.
Yeah, she's great. She's been in a bunch of shows that we could eventually cover. I think she's
the best thing in this episode, honestly.
Yeah, she's also in an episode of Murder, She Wrote. She's in an episode of the entire series of the RoboCop TV show. It looks like, or at least 23 episodes.
I can't imagine if we continue the show that we don't do RoboCop.
She's in Dr. Mordred, which is like it was an attempt to make a Doctor Strange movie without being able to make Doctor Strange. So it was like Full Moon Entertainment, which was kind of a film company that did a bunch of like kind of lower budget horror stuff. They did I think they did Demonic Toys and Doll Man and things like that. And they did this Dr. Mordred movie with Jeffrey Combs, and it's basically Doctor Strange, but they didn't get the rights, so they weren't able to actually make it a real Doctor Strange movie. And yeah, they made this. I've never seen this, but I've heard it's pretty silly, and they did it on one of the newer seasons of Mystery Science Theater. So it's I think it's slowly starting to get its attention in the world of bad cinema. But yeah, she was in a ton of shows. She was also in an episode of Freddy's Nightmares. That
would make sense. She has that big way of acting that you would want for that.
Yeah. She's in quite a bit of stuff, in also an episode of Sheena, which we've covered before. And in 2 direct-to-video Walking Tall sequels with Kevin Sorbo.
Oh no.
Those were her last 2 things.
He must have blackmailed her out of the business.
Yeah, she obviously did something
too woke.
Yeah. she didn't respond to his "God's not dead" text.
Yes.
with a resounding support or thumbs up. So he blacklisted her.
Or he was just mad at her for being a woman.
Also very possibly true, knowing piece of shit Kevin Sorbo. But anyway, so she's giving this lecture all about the witch trials, and she kind of brings up the thing about women were accused of being witches for a variety of reasons, and one of them was because men found them too attractive, so they would say that they were witches and it put a spell on them or something. And so you have seemingly the only guy in the classroom who looks like a reject from some extreme sports commercial for Capri Sun. He's like, oh, if that's the case, then I accuse her of being a witch, and he points out some girl in the class because she's too sexy. And so she gets mad at him for that, of course, and then the class leaves, and he stops at her desk, and he's like, she's not the only one that I could have accused of being a witch, because you're sexy too.
I love that. At least, once again, this is the police chief, captain
dreaming this,
but This guy like, well, I've got this great way to make sure everyone in this place knows that I got a hard on for him. I gotta go tell all of them. Thanks for them bringing up this opening for me. Like he's just so excited. He's just so excited with this new material that's been given to him. He's got to make sure everyone fucking knows.
Yeah. So she takes off, and
he looks like a cross between Matthew Lillard and Spike from Buffy, by the way. So.
Actually, yes, very, very good. He leaves the classroom, and two girls are about to leave, and this is Leah and Naomi. These are the two girls from the roof who cast the spell earlier. And I guess we have kind of completely missed the fact that we did get back to Harry. So Harry did get a call during his dream where the mother from the movie is calling him, crying that her son is dead. So this is when he breaks his glasses and has to wear the Groucho glasses. He goes over to her house. They look in the bathroom. The body is missing, but there is blood everywhere. And he also finds a little amulet in the bathroom. So we know that something's going on, but again, it's probably a dream. Who knows if it's real or not yet. He also finds a little matchbook for a mystic antique shop. So these are some clues that he's going to use in just a bit. But anyway, we see all that before we have the classroom sequence, and the woman tells them that they needed to, when she sets an assignment for them, she expects it to be done immediately. And they're like, oh, no, we actually did it already. And they open up this cabinet in the classroom, and there at the bottom, slumped over, is the boy's body. I think his name is Max. And he's dead in the closet. So the Ramsdale, the witch, is extremely happy about this. So then Harry calls Zorro and Vixana, and they go to this mystic antique shop. And this is where they meet Mather, who's also played by Charlie Lang, the guy who was playing the stoned guy at the costume shop earlier in the episode. And there's a weird moment where Zorro says, have we met before? Or you look familiar or something. And then Mather goes, well, have you ever been in here before? And he's like, no. And then he goes, then I guess not.
So that suggests that the captain has imparted some level of consciousness to
his dream versions of his employees.
There are at least two or three times where the characters seemingly are aware that things are weird, but since they are not people, they shouldn't have any self-awareness. They have is actually Harry having self-awareness.
Yeah, it's weird but also even still, we get a moment early on in the episode before he's dreaming where, unless the whole thing is a dream, but where he sneaks out in the morning and his wife looks right at the camera and is like, gives a look like, can you believe it? Like, so I am unclear.
I think the idea is this whole episode isn't real, but at the same time, the narrative of the story is that the Chris and Cassie in the dream aren't really Chris and Cassie. So anytime that they have a moment of like, isn't this weird? What's going on? Which isn't often, but every now and then they do question the reality they're in. It's like, they're no more real than that salt and pepper shaker on the fucking table. Like, no one here is real. Why is he even dreaming this part?
It's so strange. Like it makes no sense. But anyway, so they go to this antique, the mystic antique shop, and they meet Mather, and he tells them, they show him the amulet, and he says, yes, it did come from this store. But I can't remember who I sold it to. And there's actually two amulets. One, the one you have here, shows it lit with flames. It's like a woman tied to a stake, and there's flames. And the other one is a woman tied to a stake, but with no flames. And so he kind of tells them a little bit about the amulets and the story. And there was apparently a witch that like died, but then put a curse to come back every 100 years on Halloween and feed on someone to sustain her strength or something. Yeah, but it's kind of stupid because like what does that do?
She tries to explain it later, but also kind of doesn't make sense. But also like he's very, very over the top serious about it. She point out that his assistant is one of the witches from the start of the show.
Yes.
Who is also still in her schoolgirl outfit.
Yes. And is hitting on Zorro.
And will then appear in the next segment with Zorro.
Oh, yes. As a different character who also tries to have sex with Zorro. It's bizarre.
Once again, a girl who is high school age.
Yes. Maybe this is Catholic college.
Maybe she's been held back until she was of age.
Yeah, so then they decide to check out some addresses of where they sent the amulets to see if they can figure out where they are.
This means nothing in the end besides getting one of them to the party.
Yeah, basically. So, because that was one of the addresses where it was sent. But it also seems like Mather is in on it and he knows that it went to Ramsdale the witch.
Well,
because he calls her on an old telephone and tells her that someone's coming.
Yeah, but also when she goes to sacrifice the young boy and said that he's not a meal, he's a snack because his sins are little boy sins of cheating and lying, not the major sins she needs to have a real meal keep her alive. She says like, and where's my amulet? I'm like, then who has it?
Well, it fell. They had it when they went to retrieve the body for some reason, but then it fell off, which is why Harry found it. Again, dream logic, so it doesn't matter.
Well, then Harry brings her it, and she's like, she doesn't give a shit.
Yeah, she's like, well, I guess she doesn't want to seem too excited. You know how it is? Like, you don't want people, like, you want
to lure them in so you can bring out your giant pencil.
We'll get there. But it's like when you go to, like if you were a collector of something and you went to, like, a flea market or, like, an estate sale or something like that, and you find something that you're really excited about, but it's, like, really cheap, and you're going to try to, like, get them down a little bit lower on the price. You want to haggle a little bit, but you don't want to show how excited you are. You're like, oh, I'll give you, I don't know, $15 for this thing. And it's like really worth like, $300 or something like that.
Aren't you stealing from them then?
I mean, probably a little bit, but what are you going to do?
If you were to tell them the full value of it, you were like an angel.
No, I'm a devil. Sorry. It's Halloween.
It's Halloween. It's Halloween.
Yeah, I'm gonna give me this vintage 1940s Halloween decoration for $5, please. Even though it probably could get it on eBay for $200 from some psycho. It
would be a cat with a witch hat on.
Yeah, exactly. So Vixana goes while they're gonna track down these addresses, because they get to do all the fun stuff. She goes back to the precinct building to ask about the blood at the scene because Harry got the blood tested. He wanted to make sure that it was actually blood and not maybe something fake. Maybe there's some sort of prank that's going on. So because the body disappeared and he wants to make sure that everything's on the up and up. So she goes to check on the blood with the lab tech guy, who is, I guess, a regular on the show. This is Dr. Sterling Morton. And earlier in the episode, he shows up and he's got some Dracula fangs in, and he's like hitting on her pretty aggressively. And then he does it again here. He says that it was real blood at the scene, and he takes a drink out of something that looks like blood, which she freaks out about. But he says, no, it's just a Bloody Mary, which also, drinking on the job, my man, that's probably not advised, but it's Halloween. So yeah, sure. We'll give you a little bit of a break there. And he tries to attack her again. He insists to bite her.
Yeah. He insists that he actually is Dracula.
Yes.
Says he was trying to do his last autopsy was sloppy, so he's brushing up on his skills by doing a dissection of a live frog, and she's like, of a frog. And she's like, that frog's still alive. And he's like, not for long. And she's like, at that point, she's like, will you fucking get out of character? And he's like, I am not in character. And then you're like, and like at that point, you're like, okay. She's at this point, like, once again, this is one of the moments where he's completely a character. He's completely a dream thing. Like he's not his real person. He thinks he's actually whatever. And for whatever reason, his boss is dreaming that he would sexually assault one of his other coworkers. But like, she has a moment of like, okay, this is getting too weird. But also, she also isn't a real person. Just because she's a main character in the show doesn't make her in his dream any more real than anyone else. Other than maybe he knows that she's the main character of his life.
Well, and this guy shows up in 31 episodes of Silk Stalkings. So is he always like this?
Like, is he always a creep to a degree? I mean, they often do the person who does the autopsy stuff as a creep or weirdo.
Yeah, that's true. He shows up.
What does Abby do in NCIS? She's so crazy. She wears all black.
So he shows up as 3 separate characters on this show. He's in the last 2 seasons, 7 and 8, as Sterling Morton, starting with episode 5 of season 7, and he's on and off and throughout the rest of the run of the show. But season 7, episode 2, only 2 episodes before he shows up as a major character, he's on the show as Monroe Howard. And then in episode 4 of season 6, he shows up as Dick Whitney, which isn't that the name of John Hamm's real character on Mad Men?
I mean, there's no way that they possibly predicted that in advance.
It's Dick Whitman. Sorry, Dick Whitman, not Whitney. So very close, though.
Clearly, they liked the guy and decided to make him up, give him a more solid job. But it is always weird to do that and then give them a character. Like in production wise, be like 2 episodes later, 2 weeks later of watching it, this guy's a different character altogether.
Yeah. And I don't know if he was like a major character on that episode or what, but that is really wild that they would do that.
But this whole part with his Dracula and just like not taking no for an answer is really weird.
Yeah.
And then she like pushes him over. She pushes him off finally, and he goes over a medical cart and falls on the floor. And then she like gives this little Elvira speech about men are all frogs. And it's like, like she was almost like self-aware for a second, but now she's going into the voice again.
Yeah.
And then she turns him into a frog, and someone on set had to put this cute little white lab coat on an actual frog.
I wonder how long that took for that one shot.
Like that can't be easy.
No, they barely. I mean,
Someone
barely
had to make it because you can't go out and buy a lab coat for a frog.
No, that's probably like a Ken doll lab jacket that they put on him.
It fit pretty snugly. His legs were coming out the right spots.
Yeah, no, they did a good job. So we're getting close to the end here. Thank
Believe
God.
it or not, like, the plot hasn't moved forward at all.
It's fucking
really
rambling.
It's getting crazier by the minute.
Yeah, Harry goes
as
to
the chili kicks in.
Harry goes to the witch's house, and he kind of starts explaining things about his life, and he kind of starts dropping little things like, sometimes I have to lie about things, and sometimes I have to be deceptive, and et cetera, et cetera.
He's clearly trying to impress her.
Yes, because she's kind of flirting with him a little bit.
It is kind of a sex party.
It seems like it is. There's lots of like scantily clad people wandering around.
But
and granted, this is Florida, so there's
and it is Halloween.
It's beach town. Let's have some fun in the sun. But yeah, he's hanging out. She says something about like her magic skills lie in the bedroom or something like that.
She's like, my real magic charms, but can be found in the house upstairs or something. Clearly her bedroom, and you're like, you kind of wait for him, this married old man who's talking to a much younger woman, would go like, hey, I'm here on business or whatever, even in his dream. Yeah. But no, in his dream, he's like, of course she's hitting on me, and follows her to her bedroom. and then starts bragging more about himself.
So he's bragging about everything that he, all these things about himself and his police career and all that. And she's got a list going of the things that she needs. So the first one, it seems fairly normal. She checks it off, but it's the only thing on the paper. It says like lies. And so she checks it off. And then something about deception or whatever. And then she checks it off again, but the pencil is huge now. It is massive. It's like one of those, it's like a pencil you get at a carnival. Like you win a prize and they give you a pencil that's longer than your arm.
And then the notepad is gigantic.
And there's more things being added to the list. And as she like checks them off, you get like these weird sound effects like cha-ching, cha-ching.
Of course, there's like we haven't mentioned in a while, but by the way, the music has not stopped. It has not stopped, and it is going in overdrive at this point.
Yeah, it's wild. And so she realizes she like has slipped something into his drink, so he falls asleep, which is weird because when he falls asleep and we cut back to her notebook and pencil are normal size again. Like, so is that real?
Like his cigar turning into a real cigar.
Yeah, it's bizarre.
So I love the fact that in his dream he gets drugged and put to sleep. So like the layers at this point are so deep.
Yeah, this is years before Inception taught us about different dream layers, and this show was doing it way earlier
and way better, honestly.
They check off his bad qualities. He falls asleep. She says, "Oh, it's time. We have a perfect victim." So then we cut to Zorro going to the other address, which is just says 666 on the mailbox. And it is like he's gone back in time or something, because these two people pop out. It feels very like he's in an old California village, where Zorro was just hanging out, back in the early days of the settlements and stuff. And there's this couple that they're fighting, and he jumps in and tries to shoot the guy, but the guy knocks his gun out of his hand with a sword. They have a big sword fight.
It is a white guy doing a Mexican accent.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. And he eventually kills him by running him through with a sword.
Literally kills him, and then the high school girl comes out and says, "You're so brave," and then starts to push him over.
Yeah, and she hops on top, and he says that nothing happened because he comes back to the station and he's like, this lady got in the way and I wasn't even able to ask about the statue.
He mentions that he killed somebody.
Yeah, he's like, I ran this guy through with my sword into his heart and killed him dead. I bet my day was worse than yours.
He seems confused by it, but once again, since this isn't him dreaming, I don't know why he would have a moment of clarity.
I like that Harry is confused about this. Why am I dreaming this?
Well, Harry's dream is going to get a lot weirder, a lot quicker. We do have another character who seems to be at least a minor regular come through and seem to be like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah, he's looking for Morton because Morton is his ride over to Harry's wife's Halloween party. And Vexana is like, I don't know where he is. But at the same time, she's poking holes in a box where she has put the frog Morton for the time being. And she tells this to Zorro when he comes back. She's like, yeah, I turned Morton into a frog. And he's like, well, that's weird. And then suddenly that earlier, the nicer sort of normal cop shows up again, along with a whole group of policemen who are all wearing masks.
Aliens,
plus Naomi.
pig masks.
Yeah, plus Naomi, who says, he killed my husband and then he had his way with me. And then the cop is like, well, you're both under arrest, one for the murder of some guy, and then you for the disappearance of, or in questioning for the disappearance of Morton. And then we cut to a trial for Harry. They're not even in this part, so we don't even see them again, basically, in this part of the episode. But
we've decided to finally stop dreaming about them.
Yeah, so Harry is on trial, and we see Ramsdale again wearing an insane witch makeup, like crazy big chin, huge nose, like her skin's gray. She's got crazy like wiry black hair. It's like a whole thing. It looks great. It's really funny. And she comes in and kind of starts accusing him of being a liar and deceptive and all this stuff. And then it turns out that the judge in the trial is his wife, dressed as Cleopatra. And basically they accuse him of doing all this bad stuff, of lying to his wife, of trying to sneak away and avoid her and all of this. And they convict him of this, and basically everyone starts closing in on him, screaming guilty, 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 and it seems like they're about to kill him when he wakes up in the office where he fell asleep earlier, and his wife is there, and she's just checking in on him, and it seems like no time has passed. He fell asleep for only a few minutes, and the two cops show up with their costumes in hand, about to go to the carnival for the school, and it seems like everything is just fine, and Harry has relearned his ways. So this is kind of It's a Wonderful Life almost kind of thing. Like,
it's at the very least it's a Christmas story.
Oh, it's like, Christmas Carol. That's basically exactly what it is.
Except unless everything that Scrooge really dreamt more about what two other people were doing.
Yeah. Scrooge, when Scrooge was dreaming about Bob Cratchit fucking.
When he just kept going to his nephew's story for some reason, he doesn't even know the guy, but he dreams all this stuff about him.
Yeah, I got to dream up how Bob Cratchit got all those kids.
Just like,
let me figure that out. Maybe Bob Cratchit was dressed as Zorro. I don't know.
Just as Zorro. Oh man.
Was my nephew's wife ever dressed as Vixana for some reason? Maybe. Was she kissing kids? I don't know. Could be.
Could be.
But he realizes it's all a dream. He says, "I'm super excited for this party. I would rather be nowhere else in the world." So we're like, okay, cool. He learned his lesson. And then we get a shot at the end of the party. They are dressed as Zorro and Vixana, which is weird because that came from his dream. So did he convince them that they needed to go get those costumes, or were they already going to be dressed like that?
Or is he fallen back asleep?
Well, good point, because now we get an ending where they're all hanging out together. Everybody's having a good time. Morton, who's dressed as Dracula, tries to say something, but then his throat catches and he says, "Oh, I feel like I have a frog in my throat," and he wanders off, and we all get a good laugh out of that. I was laughing for, I think, 5 minutes or something. We had to pause.
I went and got a water.
The episode because I was laughing so hard at that joke. It was very good.
I had some yeast rise. It was pretty. I had a lot of time.
So he gets a phone call. He has his phone on him. This is probably, good early days of those big thick cell phones that not the full on big ones that you're used to from not the bricks, but like the kind of smaller bricks that flipped down and had a big antenna on them. But he gets a call, and it's the same call that he got earlier in the episode of the mom calling him crying that her son was dead.
So he's clearly dreaming again.
And then he's like, "What?" And then we get a credits. So, I guess he's still asleep. I mean, it would be one thing if he woke up in the chair and realized that everything was a dream.
I think the lesson of this is that he needs to get more woke.
Well, I'm curious. This is way off topic, but I'm curious what happened in that movie he was watching.
I mean,
what would it have been?
He's really extrapolated a lot out of 3 minutes of footage. They're very uninteresting, but slightly titillating.
And also, what was he watching it on? Because at the end of that thing, when he wakes up at the beginning of the episode, end we see the film reel go off the thing.
So is he have a tiny little projector projecting onto a white screen that's shaped like a television?
Yeah, it's like, where did he get this snuff film from?
It's almost like the people making this didn't know what the medium they work in, how it works.
This episode was actually directed by Chris Potter, who plays Tom Ryan / Zorro in this episode.
No wonder Zorro gets so much attention in this.
Yeah, I mean that. Yeah, I'm gonna direct an episode where I get to make out with lots of women.
God, the only thing that would be better is if like somehow, and I have to ask this question, if somehow one of the characters in this episode was played by Tony Danza, and of course his costume would have to be Tony.
That's right.
And every character in the dream world would have to call him Tony, no matter what he was dressed at or what was going on.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, so
maybe I'll constantly asking his wife who the boss is. Angela. He's like, that's not my name.
Yeah, so that's Silk Stalkings. I'm glad we finally covered it.
I feel like we learned nothing about Silk Stalkings.
No, we definitely didn't.
I mean, we always have that problem. I'm sure if anyone ever listens to our episodes, because they are looking up somehow one of these obscure shows or old shows that we cover, and they're like, oh, someone finally covered this show I love, and they're like, they don't have a fucking clue what the show's about. They piss me off. I think we are allowed this time to go through this episode so blind and leaving it so blind.
Yes, for sure.
I have no idea what a regular episode even sounds like.
No,
I don't know that this is the soundscape of every show, or it's the soundscape of the Halloween episode.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. We do get some sexy sax though during some of the sequences where Zorro is being assaulted. There was another episode of the show, which I feel like we will come back to this show at some point, because we were just looking through kind of quickly the episodes that were available, and season 8, so the last season, episode 1, which aired in July of 1998, was called "Do You Believe in Magic?" And it's about this is the log line: a woman's split personality gives life to a murderous ventriloquist dummy. So did they just introduce magic into the show at some point?
I mean, like I said, 8 episodes into a show like this, you have to, but also like, is split personality up there with hitting head amnesia and quicksand and feet under the table, like as things that happen on TV and movies far more often than ever happen in life?
I think so. Yeah, probably. Like it feels very. It feels very much like. Oh, holy shit! So that
it feels very much like holy shit. You're correct.
Yeah, that episode, the dummy one, which I do think we have to cover now, is directed by John Paragon, who was Zombie on Pee-wee's Playhouse, who wrote a bunch of stuff with Elvira. Like worked on UHF, like, boy. So I'm sure that it's great. Like I'm sure there's great puppet work, and I'm sure that it's very silly.
Okay, I want to see that now. Also, he should have done this episode instead of the guy making himself have young ladies all over him.
Yeah, exactly. Like that. That would be a great episode to cover. So I think we definitely may have to cover the haunted dummy episode of Silk Stalkings.
We definitely may
Great
have
show.
to. That is the rule of what we're going to cover in the show. Is that there's about 70 shows we've mentioned that we definitely maybe have to cover.
Yeah, there's so many. We just and when we do shows like this, and then we find other shows that these people are in, it's like,
Dark Justice.
Well, that's going on the list. Yeah, Dark Justice. I mean, there's an episode in season 7 called Night of the Parrot. And it's about them investigating the mysterious deaths of a wealthy woman's pets.
I love how thin the plots are on these shows the later you get into them. Like that is so much more interesting to me of like, what are you doing when you got nothing left versus what do you do when like you're still hucking out the actual premise for the first 6 episodes.
Yeah, I mean, season 7, episode 17, the death of a research scientist draws Tom and Cassie into a secret project searching for extraterrestrial life.
Crimes of passion.
Oh man.
There was some Silk Stalkings in this episode, and the episode title was uttered by a character.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, she does say it's the
she
Great
does say
Pumpkin, Harry.
Yep, she says the titular line.
It's great. So before we end, we have to put this on our scale of spookiness, scale of scariness. Again, means nothing. We're just rating the episode. So, where are we gonna slot? It's the Great Pumpkin, Harry.
Man, like, not a great show, not compelling for most of it, but so dumb, so unhingedly dumb, and maybe the craziest soundtrack of anything we've watched besides Love on a Leash. So 7, like 7, almost entirely based on the synthesizer piano that's going absolutely batshit. This entire episode, when you think about it for more than a second, is absolute batshit.
Yeah.
But then the soundtrack is equally batshit, and that is kind of like a fine pairing of wine and cheese.
Yeah, it's so goofy. It's so silly. There is a scene we didn't really talk about when Harry shows up to the witch's house, and she hears the knock on the door, comes out, laughs maniacally, and then flies across the room.
Like, at that point, the show is like, the episode is just fucking off the rails. Like, they're not even
she's like on a Segway, and she just like across.
She laughs so hard too.
It's incredible. Like, it's so stupid. It's really dumb. That knowing that it's all a dream conceit, it just means they can just do whatever they want, and it doesn't have to make sense, which is really funny. And is also kind of infuriating because it's like, wow, there's no logic at all in this show.
No, none. And there's like the entire A plot goes nowhere. Because the A plot is the two main characters, and their stuff doesn't matter. It just ends.
Yeah, it's really dumb. It's really silly, but I do encourage you to check it out. You can find it on YouTube.
I am glad we settled on this, because we had to push back our number one choice 1 week.
Oh,
so like your next Halloween episode, your next spooky episode, I think can only go up from a very high place we've already hit.
Yeah, I think the next one is gonna be pretty good. I'm pretty excited about it. So,
and if you heard me mention that we covered Love on a Leash, and you think, they did the movie everybody else did, we did it like fucking 3/4 of a year before anyone ever touched it, and no one cared then, and no one will care now.
No. Before we go, though, I do have to tell you what may be the best / stupidest title of an episode that I've seen in a very long time of Silk Stalkings. It's for season 6, episode 16, and I'm going to tell you the synopsis of the episode. Then I'm going to give you the title. Tom and Cassie pursue a serial killer whose victims are culled from the internet. Do you want to take a guess at what this is called before I tell you the title? Because I guarantee you're not going to get it.
Baud rate murders.
No. Okay. All lowercase. Call me at murder.com.
I could see a show doing that still at this point, because TV shows still don't understand how the internet fucking works.
I could, but man, I want to watch that episode now too. Man, there's so many shows that we could just easily pivot and just cover those. Honestly,
this is Freddy's Nightmare and Pack Blue all over again, where every single synopsis we read, like, if it isn't super offensive and cringy, like, and that's only like three per season, everything else is like, this is all gold. It is
Yeah.
it's like fucking treasure. Like, if it was at the bottom of a blizzard, you'd be just eating that cup, getting through the M&Ms, getting through the ice. You want to get to the bottom of that thing as fast as possible, like it's $1 million.
Oh, absolutely. But that's going to do it for this episode of Center of Weirdness. Thank you so much for listening. We hope you're having a great Halloween season so far, and we'll be back very soon with one more Halloween episode to close out this extra scary season. Until then, though, I've been Josh, Jugular Josh.
Jugular. Don't you have this entire like fucking series of pictures you do every Halloween where you put yourself into a different Halloween character and you can't come up with a name for yourself on your fucking podcast?
Count Joshua. There you go.
Finally, Ivan Skinner.
I want you to keep it scary out there. You've been listening to Center of Weirdness. If you like this show, rate and review us wherever you find it, but especially on Apple Podcasts. You can listen to every episode at centerofweird.com, where you can also find all of the old Predictocast episodes. And if you want to get in touch with us to tell us about a show we should cover, hit us up on Twitter at Weird Center. As always, thanks for listening. Now I'm going to go watch a softcore witch porno and fall asleep.
Go watch clown porno and then fall asleep.
There you go. And I'll pretend that my coworkers are all dressed as clowns.
Sexy clowns. Your poor coworkers. Because what happens in the dream state happens in real life.
Apparently.